can tell her, you can tell her anything. She's a real good listener. You can tell her anything.
Yo, what's up? It's your girl, Father Longlegs. You know me, Daddy T. I'm so excited for my guest today. She has a podcast called Girls on Guys. Did I get that name right? I hope I did. Yes. That voice you're hearing is Nina Tarr. What's up?
What's up, dude? I like your Father Longlegs. That's just the formality of the pinky spider.
Yeah, I don't like spiders. I don't know why. How that I can't remember. It was like from this podcast, and then it just kind of stuck, and now that's how I go. Do you have a nickname on your pod? I just think like the AKA thing just felt like a podcast thing, but
I love that. I've always been the type of person, literally since I was a child, I've wanted a nickname my whole life. I've never had a nickname. People will say like, I mean, my name's 2 syllables, and so sometimes people will be like, "Hey, Mean." I'm like, really? Mean? Really?
you gotta inception your own nickname. I mean, I know it's not kosher to do that. Like, you're supposed to be gifted one, but I feel like if you want a nickname, you should just go for it, you know?
I don't know. Then you kind of fall into that George Costanza like Seinfeld episode where it's like, I'm gonna go by T-Bone. It's like you can't call yourself T-Bone. Like you gotta like be gifted. It has to be like anointed. You have to be anointed.
Yeah.
I never
stumble upon it.
Yeah, or just somebody like you know. And here's the thing: usually nicknames are like either derogatory or like just pejorative in some way. So I'm kind of like, I guess maybe that's good. Like, you know, what if it's like, "Hey, diaper girl." Yeah, remember that one time? Diaper girl. That's you.
Well, I was gonna ask because your handle on Instagram is pizzabarty69, which is a great handle. But like one of the sort of like remaining relics of when our usernames weren't our names plus comedy, and so I love that. But I was gonna ask, like, was there an origin to that, or you're just like, that's funny and let's just do it?
It was my AIM name in high school. And
really?
When I joined Instagram, it was like very long time ago. Like I joined Instagram in 2010.
Okay, it's like original days of it, right? When people use
like,
the Hefe filter or whatever.
Like legit, because it was initially a app for photographers. That's what it was for. It was you would take you couldn't even upload things onto it. You have to only use the filters that they gave you and take photos with it. And it was just like a photo sharing platform.
I vaguely remember this.
Yeah, and so I dated a guy who was a photographer, and he's like, "Oh, you should download this app." That's how I got it. So like over a decade, I mean, God, it's like kind of insane. It was like 13 years ago. I feel like, right?
Oh my God, yeah, we've really lived through quite a landscape change. Because I remember before Tinder, you know, like there was a website called Date My School that was going around different colleges trying to like. I went to NYU, so they loved to like try out those college apps on us because it was like New York or whatever. Yeah. And yeah, I met my college boyfriend on that, which I think is so funny.
Like New York doesn't need a date, especially college kids in New York do not need dating apps. They're already like so, not only are they horny, they have like so much time and energy to allocate to literally just fucking that it's like, why are we putting this on an app? It's kind of wild.
Although, okay, from my experience, I mean, I was in like a party, like I think I just was trying to do a joke about this and didn't make sense, but I was like, I tried to study abroad in like slut world, but I never felt like I actually was, you know, so I did need like a little encouragement. Like I joined a sorority, I was like, but I wouldn't just like go out and fuck a stranger. That wasn't my vibe. But now I feel like with apps, it's easier to look strangers up. But so I will say, like, the dating apps within school, I feel like we're helping for like the aspiring sluts like me who needed like a little bit of like, let me make sure you're not a psychopath. Oh, I can see like your profile and our mutual friends.
Traceable.
But
traceable.
Traceable. Turns out that guy was still kind of I don't know, much love to him, but he was just a frat boy. And actually, I feel like I owe him a lot now because I still have like a joke I still do about how he had Chinese characters tattooed on his calves. And at this point, like, he hasn't hurt me really in a way that I should keep doing that joke, but it's a funny joke, so I'll keep doing it. So honestly, I think I'll commemorate him in my
in memoriam.
Yeah, in memoriam, my love for this frat boy. Before we get into your confession, I do like to ask my guests, and this is very like broad, you can answer however you want, but this podcast was sort of inspired because I started going to therapy late in life, and I really like being like heard, and not just on stage, but like in my authentic truth. So I like to ask my guests, like, what's your experience with therapy? Do you go? Have you gone? Do you hate it? Love it? Whatever. Like, there's no right or wrong answer. I am just like to get sort of people's general, or if you have a different like self-care plan or whatever. So sort of in that realm.
I'm very pro therapy. I have a great therapist. I also started therapy a little later in life, like definitely after I always knew that I was like, I'm a little fucked up. I'm a little fucked up. I just didn't really grow up with like the best kind of upbringing background, if that makes sense.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Orange County, which is funny because there's already like I grew up not affluent in a very affluent area, which is like really fucked up because it's like very classist there and very conservative. And I have an immigrant mother. I'm like first generation, first person in my family born in this country, immigrant mother from the Middle East, single mother, like pretty poor, we're pretty poor, and then like went to fucking like grew up in like really affluent areas. So I got made fun of for being poor, an immigrant, and like just every sort of thing under the fucking sun. And I was like, sucks.
That's wild that kids made fun. I mean, I went to 1 year of Catholic school where that was like, I was so shocked because I grew up in the Bay, and it's like, there's sort of like willful ignorance to classism. Like it's there. Yeah, but then when I went to this Catholic school for a year, I was like people make fun of people for being poor, and I was like, what? That's like a thing? And I mean, obviously it is. I was a little naive, but that's wild to me.
Take into consideration that these children, like I'm telling you, red, like it's Orange County is a red dot in the blue state.
Yeah.
In consideration that these children are raised by primarily conservative Republicans, and so there's a trickle down effect, and so it's like they don't even know political affiliation. They're literally like 9, 10 years old, but they hear kind of like, all this, like, it's pretty wild. But like, I'm like, these kids, they don't know what they're doing. It's just like their parents. It's a very conservative area. So it's like, I wasn't like, people were like, I can't believe people made fun of you for like being Persian. I'm like, dude, like, they didn't even say, it was so fun. I tell people this and it's like so wild because like, I'm clearly like a white lady. I'm a white woman. And like clearly. But when I was growing up, because like they're so fucking like, just so fucked up, but like they would be like, well, you're actually not white, and I'm like, what's weird is that you think that's like a bad thing, that's why you're like, that's like because they're like,
I know, you're like,
and I'm like, okay, that's like, it's actually worse that you think that because it makes you seem like, well, God, like you're not even white. And it's just
like anybody that's like policing how white you are from the other side is like, that ain't it. Like, don't do that.
Dude, it was so crazy, man. Very cringy. But like, yeah, I have been going to therapy for a while. I mean, I guess I started kind of later in life. I would kind of go in and out of it. So like,
were you like on your own already? Because I know I don't know how it is in Persian families. I know in Asian immigrant families, it's very much like, it's not a thing. And in fact, like my mom was upset when I started going.
My mom is still upset that I'm in
really?
therapy. I'm also I have a psychiatrist. I'm on Wellbeing, and my mother is very upset about that. She's like, so Shuna, when are you going to get off of it? I knew you needed it for a little bit. When are you off? And I'm like, honestly, I think it's really changed my life. It saved my life, actually.
Yeah.
Literally saved my life. And I don't think I don't have any negative side effects from it in any way, shape, or form. And I'll probably be on for the rest of my life. And she's like, okay, but like, work on getting off of it because it's not good to be on any medicine. He's a fucking scientist.
Wow.
Literally works
in medicine. She decided? Oh my God.
Works in medicine is like, do not take it though. I work in it, good job, but don't take it. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, yeah, there's definitely cognitive dissonance because like, my mom, I mean, now I started meds like 2020, and so it took me a while to, like, I think I have some internalized, like, I would tell people like, oh, go ahead, but then I was like, but I don't need it, and then finally when I got on, I was like, oh my God, so much better. I was literally like having like hour-long panic attacks before, so I'm like,
yes, dude, I completely identify. I didn't even realize that I was struggling so much mentally and emotionally until I just had like, I can see clearly.
Yeah, it's like I was like trying to breathe underwater
Like,
this whole
it's
time.
fine.
It's like
It's fine.
somebody was
It's
just
fine.
like, just drain the pool, dude, or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, I can breathe now.
Yeah, it was that was a really big relief for me. But I think that any like traditional kind of family like structure, or not structure necessarily, but culture rather. So
Mm-hmm.
like you know, Persians, Asian, like probably
Yeah,
like Latino, like it's just like you don't need any of that shit. Like what are you
yeah,
talking about? I mean, my parents are both also like boomers, and like they could definitely use a lot of therapy. Like they're both like I mean, it's crazy because I try not to be preachy, but like I'm like, Mom, it would really help you. Like my mother literally lost her country in like the most devastating
yeah.
way. Like literally saw like people hanged in the streets, and it's like not
Damn.
only therapy. And I'm like, she has like such hardcore trauma,
Wow.
and it's just like I'm fine, I'm fine, and
It's
like
tough because it's like as a whole generation, like they've all kind of agreed to like live in a different reality where it's like it happened, but like they have to almost act like it's not a big deal, otherwise it all explodes. I feel like our generation is almost like, especially first generation, like I mean, I don't know, this is like a TikTok thing I see. I'm like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm like, we are here to break the generational trauma. I'm like, I do kind of like, not in a, oh my gosh, we're divine, but in a, like, we have the capacity because
and
we
the
grew up.
resources. The
Yeah.
resources are big because therapy is now normalized. And back in the
Hmm.
day, like I mean, you got to think of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Like that was the
Yeah.
idea. Therapy was really allocated to mentally ill people, like
Right.
severely mentally ill people. I wouldn't really consider myself like mentally ill, to be honest with you. I have an anxiety disorder and I suffer from like a little bit of depression, but that's
Yeah.
like I feel like everyone has something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I definitely don't want to co-opt that. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are very severely on that mental health kind of like spectrum that is like, and I
It's
don't really.
however you feel comfortable, but yeah, I understand because I sometimes will like, I'm like mental illness is, it's totally okay, it's normalized to talk about. I'm like, I do have mental illness, but then even not sometimes like in the different context, like in an academic context, I'm like, yes, mental illness, and then
Yeah.
if I'm like talking, I don't. There's a weirdness. I once asked my boyfriend, I was like, do you like say like when you introduce like if you tell people you're like my girlfriend's mentally ill, and he's like no, like first of all why would I say that, but it made me have that thought because there is an othering in the way we say that, even if we want to normalize it, it's like we can't undo the history.
But I
So
think
uh,
everyone's
yeah,
ill. Everybody is ill,
I
whether
think
you're
neurodivergent is the new word, but it's still just
yeah.
like another phrase, and I'm like okay dude, whatever,
Well,
like,
it's a semantic, but it's like we all suffer from the human condition, and it's
yeah.
you know consciousness is a burden. It's a difficult thing to
Damn,
have, and
someone's
like
been doing shrooms. No.
yeah, dude. But I think I wish that it was like more normalized because when I started seeing my therapist, I was like, I started seeing. Let's see, I the first time I did therapy, I think I was in college. I was like probably 19 years old, and it was just like a free service, and it wasn't really that helpful. And I kind of felt like because it was connected to like my college, I was like a
Hmm.
little like shady about like, oh, what if I like say something and then they're like, actually, we're gonna expel you, like, and so I got a little like, I don't know about this, and I avoided it for a while. I definitely was of that kind of thought process and ilk of like my mother being like, I think there's a stubbornness in wanting to take care of yourself. It's really an ego
Yeah.
thing. It's like, well, I've made it this far, so why do I need to call in reinforcements? Why do I need to
Yeah.
bring someone else to fix my issues? And also, like, why do I need to outsource this? And a lot of people do believe this. They do believe that entering into, therapy is going to make them excavate things from their past, and they'd rather just keep it there.
Right.
And the thing is,
It
you
doesn't
can't
stay
keep
though.
it
It comes
there
out no
because
matter
it's
what.
gonna come get your ass. Like that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like I think so many like just back to our parents thing. It's like this avoidance of wanting to do therapy. It's like it's like you act like, oh, that was in the past. I'm over it. I'm like, you're literally so affected by it now, and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's the thing. If you're even thinking like I got to keep that in the past, that means it's taking energy to keep it, right? Because there's things that I forget about that I process, like that like I've gotten much better at relationships. I used to be in like so many shitty ones, but now my boyfriend and I like go to therapy together because we want to both work on it. Mostly because I came in with like so much baggage. I was like, we need help. But I've noticed like sometimes we'll have a little argument or something now, and we'll actually process it. And then he brought it up once in therapy as something that I forgot, and I was like, oh, we actually processed it. And he was like, yeah, same. I only wrote it down because at the time I was like, it might be good to talk about, but now we both like forgot what it was, not because we denied it, but because we just processed it. So I'm like,
Yeah,
oh.
working through it. It's so hard, that delicate balance, because I have a boyfriend who's like in therapy and very good about like taking care of his issues as well, and as am I. And it's really nice. Like, I mean, I feel really proud and happy that I have that. But you can fall into what's difficult is like you don't want to like go into the minutia of every nook and cranny. Like, well, when
Yeah.
you said it like this, I felt like this, and the tone that like then you're just getting like solipsistic in your own shit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's so because it's good to process things, but I think sometimes like him and I have definitely fallen into this like place of being like, well, and I'm like, wait, what are we even like? It becomes so meta. I'm like, wait, what are we even talking about again? I like
I
completely am
wonder
like,
if that's like being a comedian too, though, because there's an element of dissecting communication in comedy. And I feel like I'm always trying to self-reflect because it's like, oh, if I can fix the difference between me and the audience, I can get through to them. But then I feel like I shouldn't be doing that in my like day-to-day life. But sometimes I'll be like, oh, I didn't explain myself.
yes.
And then, it's like, just be yourself and then it will
Almost like
come.
if you could only see from my perspective, they would understand. And it's like you have to really let go of the idea that like you're gonna be misunderstood sometimes, and you
Yeah.
can't do anything about it. And it doesn't take more communication to. It's kind of almost like not throwing your hands up in the air, but just being like, all right, well, I guess it's like the agree to disagree thing, which is like the most aggravating end to anything, because then you're just like, but I can't like this is
Yeah, I think I like feeling like agree to be different, take up different space because then you feel like, oh, we don't need to agree because it's like a tree doesn't have to agree with water, but they have to realize that they're not. A tree has to realize, oh, I'm not water and you're not a tree. Does that make sense? This is when I lose people. Okay, when I start thinking, I'm like reading a book that, oh, actually, River Butcher recommended it called Braiding Sweetgrass, but it's really like getting into like the trees and the language of like nature, and I'm like, yes, totally. And then I talk to people day to day and they're like, what are you talking about?
Are you on mushrooms?
I love mushrooms. Mushrooms are the best. Well, I think we'll take a break right there. When we get back, we'll get your confession. We're back. Nina, the time has come. Do you have anything you would like to tell me?
Well, some of it is just like, oh God, is that like, yeah, it's like how dramatic do I want to be with it? Do I want to go all right, dude, this is real shit, or do I want to be? Do I want to be like, you know what? I don't mind Meg Ryan movies. You know, she's okay. Um,
Honestly, whatever you want.
Guilty pleasures for me are kind of a confession, like a big one, because I'm gonna sound like such a fucking douchebag, but I am, so it's fine. Because I am like kind of like an elitist snob when it comes to art. Like, when it comes to music, I'm literally.
You have good taste. I feel like it comes through in your comedy because you'll like reference like literary greats or whatever. And then,
film, and people are like, what?
yeah.
Like, I don't know. But so I am, especially like, I don't know, intellectualism is like always like a big thing for me. And so like growing up, I think because I grew up poor, wanting to like have like a rich mind, if you will, was
Okay.
very like I was always using really big words and like trying to read really dense literature as like a 16-year-old, like Dostoevsky and literally like Nietzsche and like Kierkegaard. And so, and it's like looking back on it, it's funny because I'm like, wow, what a little fucking charlatan I was. But like, I think
I feel like I could just have a picture of you reading what's the like Madame Butterfly or something in a cafe or whatever. I totally know what you mean, but it's funny because I feel like in a way those are meant, like they're not really meant for teenagers, but because old writers, like at the time they wasn't, but I don't know any adults who were like suddenly take an interest in So I actually think that's the right time for you to read those books. You know what I mean?
No, but it's funny because your ability to actually cognitively understand that dense literature
Sure.
is just not there. Like your brain is literally not developed enough. Like it doesn't
But
have
that's what's fun. It gives you a filter to see the world that's not objective. Like you can interpret it.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Well I say all of that to say that like taste was like a really important thing to me. Like the books I read, the movies I watched, like music especially. And so like when I say like I have certain guilty pleasures, like oh my god, if I would tell any of my friends that, they'd be like, "You're a fucking loser," and I'm like, I know, and it's almost like I've been so afraid to like even like something cheesy that I always go in like the opposite route where people are like Game of Thrones. I'm like, I never watched that.
Uh,
You know, I don't watch that. I remember even like watching Euphoria and feeling like, wow, I'm a part of the zeitgeist.
oh
Like,
my
look
gosh.
at me. Like,
I'll stand you for you. I didn't watch it when it came out, and then I watched it in between seasons. I was like, oh my God. And then now I'm like, I don't care if it's not real or millennials making fake Gen Z content. It's for me.
yeah, it's for me.
So what is the, okay, I like this confession because I feel like we're getting at something, but it's also like something about your
Only not
personality,
a
but
spring in my
also,
confession. I'm like, I'm clinging on so tightly.
what is the trashy, bad, like quote unquote bad, junk stuff that you like that you're so embarrassed about?
fucking love like Love Island, fucking love like Rock of Love. That's like old school shit. Flavor of Love.
Uh-huh.
I love like all of the like Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Like what's a horrible one that
There's
Love is
Love and Hip Hop.
Blind. Love is Blind is
Oh,
great.
Love is
Fucking
Blind.
uh 90 Day Fiance. I love it. I
So you
love.
love reality, trashy reality, or just like watching people be their worst, but in the best possible scenario
Oh
for them to
yeah,
be their
it's like
worst.
that watching that shit, but it's also like I'm kind of ashamed of it. It's also like, watching this is actually I feel like a better confession. I think because like our phones are such like these portals into like they're very private. They're these very
Mm-hmm.
private devices that we have, and yet like we use this as like a portal to like enter into other people's like worlds and whatnot via TikTok and Instagram. And so
Yeah.
like a lot of times like I mean I'm watching some real dumb shit on Instagram and TikTok, and then I'm like really embarrassed by it. And I go on rabbit holes of like being like, who's the wife of this person's blah blah blah, and then I feel like a stalker. The amount of time I waste on Instagram and TikTok is like really dumbfounding and actually makes me feel. I'm glad I'm admitting this because it makes me feel really guilty actually.
Do you watch the TikTok lives? Because that's the real rabbit hole I got into once. Oh my gosh.
No, I don't.
I don't want to open that door for you, but once I got so bored that I like clicked, because it's always like live, live. And then it was like a chat roulette, but they don't see you. And it really feels like surfing, like when they call surfing the web, I'm like, it actually feels like that because there's times when I'm like, I'm deep underwater because I'm like, what is it? Like, I'm like in a space, I'm like, I don't like any of it. Like, there's just teenagers looking at you or whatever. I'm like, no, no, no. And then sometimes you get into something that's more chill. Usually it's a lot of astrology for me where I'm like, I don't want this, but this is safe. Like someone reading tarot. And then it's like, it's the wild woods out there. There is something thrilling about it. And none of it's stuff that I would actually go seek out, but then I don't know if it's the same
We're
for you,
all
but there's
voyeurs. We have
yeah.
all become like fucking. We really have all become these like perverted peeping toms, and it's totally normalized. And it's like, if anything, I mean, like, I'm not here to talk about the pitfalls of social media because that's like such a well trod upon topic that everyone has an opinion about. It's like it helps us, but it ruins us. It helps us, but it destroys young minds. Sort of thing helps us stay connected but atrophies the brain, and it's like yes, these are all true. I do believe all these things, but
So does everything. I mean, in nature, like a thunderstorm helps life, but also destroys. I don't know. I know that's like stretching. Okay, enough with the nature,
your
but
fucking nature book is really split into everything.
I am very natured out. Yeah, I don't know why, but I don't know. I think it's like people used to say that shit about like the book, the authors you're referencing, like Dostoevsky is controversial, like
Yeah, but like I don't
creepy.
think that like, Madison Beers is on the same fucking wavelength as like I literally become so it's so fucked up. Like I'll Google this is about okay, I'm really getting into the confession. This is like I'm really like I'm just like admitting more and more like I'll literally just like look up like the age of like an Instagram like TikTok or like whatever a fucking TikToker.
Uh-huh.
You get mad.
Uh-huh.
Fucking
They're always
90
like 19. Yeah. Wow.
90-pound fucking 18-year-old has just millions of dollars. I get so angry at it. And then I'm like, who the fuck is this person? Where they come from? Oh, fucking, oh, they're from Louisville, Kentucky. Piece of shit. And I just get
Oh
mad.
my God.
So I really need to stop it because it's like, I'm a busy person. And then I can take like, I'm busy. And then I'll just like take like a sabbatical for an hour just being like,
Just mad. Wait, I have a question. Okay, because we're talking about taste, and like obviously there's sort of this implied like these people are kind of bimbos and famous for something stupid. How would you feel if you found out like Madison Beer was like super into the same like dense authors you were? Like, would it annoy you more? Or would
I think it would be kind of cool. I don't know. I don't really. Also, like, I'm painting with a wide brush and making generalizations. I don't really hate these people. I don't have like that much like energy to do that. But
No, I
like,
know what you mean though. There's an element of like we want to believe that they're not perfect, like they're dumb, you know. It's
also
not...
like the fact that like, okay, I got into a Instagram rabbit hole the other day because there's like this account that basically just like shows when like people are photoshopping themselves and photoshopping videos and filtering videos and whatnot. And it's like because we all live, we put these people on a pedestal, the fucking Kardashians, the Jenners, whatever. And we look at them and we're like, wow, like how do you even achieve that? And then like literally altering the size of their waist in a photo, which I think is like so dangerous because you are literally showing an impossible dimension of a human body and then being like, this is not only achievable, it's like what we should all be striving for, and it's literally a physical impossibility that it like makes me really angry that is just proliferated in society, and so many like young impressionable girls, and even me, dude, I'm 32 and I'm like, oh, why don't I look like that? I can't imagine if I was like 15. So I guess like, okay, yeah, Madison Beers being into fucking a dense fucking author, I'm like, that would be great because I'm like, then maybe she would talk about it and she'd be like a hot girl with a fucking like a hot girl who's a size 0 talking about something cool instead of just being like, I literally am just hot.
This is so interesting though because we went from like, I don't know if you noticed, but we went from like, okay, I like trashy stuff to like, then you kind of intellectualize it a little bit, and then when you intellectualize it, you were definitely way more like, oh yeah, forthcoming. You're like, yes, see, we live in this world and things are this and that, which I find so fascinating because I'll say I relate to this a lot. I'm also like, my favorite movie is 13 Going on 30, which is like trash.
Oh, yeah.
But I love like shitty rom-coms. Like the first day of film school, I went to NYU and I like literally people were going around saying they're like Fellini, whatever, their favorite movies. And I'm like, that's your favorite movie? Like I was like a 17-year-old. I'm like, I like Zoolander. And everyone was like, what the fuck is like, what's wrong with you? But I was like, that's the movie I've watched the most. Isn't that the definition of favorite? Like, I wasn't like trying to name directors I knew. I was just like, yeah, we're getting to know each other. And then I felt really dumb. And
You're like Vernon Herzog.
It truly was like, oh shit, I'm doing film school wrong. But now it makes sense because I do comedy. But it truly, I relate to that because the element of like, yeah, you have all that knowledge in your head, but your goal is to see the world better. And yeah, maybe I guess you want people to like you too, but it makes sense that you also enjoy this junk food stuff. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think all of that is popular for a reason, and you're just able to cut out the middle stuff, like you cut out like I feel like the stuff that's like not good, that's not quite too so trashy, and not super highbrow. Like you like super low and super highbrow.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, that's like a kind of, yeah, there's like a binary. I think it's because like I'll feel guilty about watching that shit, but then I'm like, well, now I gotta watch like, now I need to watch like a fucking German film to like, cleanse my palate, So
what are some TikTok besides Madison Beers? Like, what are you say like you get really into rabbit holes? Like, are there any examples of like Like I'm on astrology
be-
TikTok. Like what's
I
your
just
rabbit hole?
I love cringy shit. I just love like, and I think that we all like in this. There's this embrace of cringe. Like I think that what's funny about like our generation, like millennials, like we just like don't want to be uncool. Like we've kind of grown up being like, I want to be cool. I want to be cool. Like I just want to be cool.
Yeah.
And I think that like Gen Zers are actually like, I'm lame. And then you're
Uh-huh.
like, whoa, like, and there's kind of something like freeing about it. But like, dude, I don't know if you like follow certain like meme accounts or like Instagram accounts of just literally all they post is like cringe content of people that there's like this whole thing of men on TikTok trying to like thirst trap, literally like doing weird those POV videos where they're like, "Hey, good morning, babe."
Oh my god. I've seen the lesbian versions of that, but I'm only imagining that they might like, which I don't mind that much because it's usually but they are super thirst trap. They're like, this is my thirst trap, and it's just like a hot like a stud who's like, oh yeah, look, wake up, oh here, check out my neck tattoo, and I'm like, I mean you're hot, it's fine, but it is it's very cringe.
That you're gonna be like, this is not okay, and
But I would not want straight men on my feed doing that.
really creepy, and I think that we're just priming society to be like completely okay with like, I don't even think this is a stretch because I'm like, why? I'm just looking at the logical step of this. This is AI is going like literally like AI is going to be the next thing with this because it's going to be like literally like people that are just strapped into chairs Wall-E style wearing like an Oculus Rift, wearing a VR headset, and then like having like a fucking, I don't know, just a dildo attached to a machine, and like something like that, a fleshlight, and then just having somebody be like, "Hey, what's up? I woke up early and chopped some wood and made us some coffee."
Oh my god.
No, because that's what it's like. They do weird, like literally have abs, and they'll be like, "Good morning, beautiful," and you're like, "Whoa, get the fuck out of my phone!" Like it's like, so
yikes.
crazy.
They do it. It's interesting you say that because there's an element now that it used to be we used the phone as a portal, like you said, to like talk to our friends, and now we use the phone like a person almost, like because you can do that. And I mean, like I do think there is a bit of a generational gap. Like I don't know how many millennials are doing that unless they're like trying to keep up, but I do think natively, like the Gen Z and younger, they will talk to like their followers, quote unquote, but like one person. Like it's not like, hey, I hope someone sees this and reaches out because they like me. It's like, I don't care. I'm getting the feeling of talking to someone already.
You want to, I mean, look, just to take, to get psychoanalytical about it, the reason why AM like radio, like people like Rush Limbaugh and Alex Jones radicalize people is because one, you are listening usually to the radio by yourself. It's not really a social thing.
Yeah.
And two, they're talking to you. They're not saying like, we need to blah, blah, blah. Like, each time they try to make what you can tell by their rhetoric is they make it very one-on-one and very personal. So then when you are on your hour-long commute to your job and you put on Alex Jones and he's talking to you, you know, these take like you feel so much more attached to him, so much more attached to the movement, and you can really take that same sort of thing with like influencers. Like they're making it really personal to go through this portal, which is you like it is your phone is really just for you. And talking to you, trying to look you in the eyes, you know.
They make you feel like you matter. I mean, like that's like the nice part. And then the bad part is they weaponize that to be like, you need to attack the Capitol. But like
buy this shake. Buy this, you know, there's a facial product that you need. I fall for all that shit. I fall for the facial product shit.
Sometimes I like the ones that are like just affirmations. I can't lie. Like I used to hate those on Instagram, but something about TikTok, it's like I'm not looking for if I'm scrolling and someone's just like, hey, I hope you know you have like, it doesn't matter what you did today. Like
algorithm.
And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Mine's negative. Mine's a negative algorithm. I also say like algorithms, just the funny thing about those is like, you know, I think that there used to be so much more unification in the fact that we would all kind of consume the same type of media. Like, you know, and I'm not talking about, you know, 60 years ago when there's only like 4 TV stations and whatnot. I'm talking about even like not that long ago. It's like, you know, people watch the same movie in a box office, you know, we like, you know, we watch kind of the same content. We kind of watch the same TV shows. We watch the same, like,
well, and our feeds actually literally used to just be the same, like before they,
advertising, we could all even reference a commercial or an advertisement because we all saw the same one. Now, it is completely like our lack of connection is really, I feel like you can trace it in just like algorithms and social media platforms, because it's so hyper focused and catered to you that like your algorithm, even though we're both women, we're both comedians, we should actually have similar, feeds. I bet we don't at all.
Okay, well, I have not a what's a counter to that, because I think that in the transition that might be true, because we used to connect on the surface, like the lowest common denominator, sitcoms, whatever. I feel that we're now doing more like deep neural network learning, like spiders, like we're there's no central feed, but I do kind of feel like the specificity of the weird TikTok holes you go into do have a lot of followers. And if you can get like 3 or 4, I don't know, that you're really deep into, and then you have your friends in the real world, I feel like can build a stronger support network of people who are like you, even though they're all more spread out. That's my counter, because I don't know if I kind of am a bit of a fan of the algorithm being decentralized. There's times when I watch a video that's like random because I'm researching something, and the ad on YouTube is like something completely not for me. Like once I was watching a kids show, and it was like, the ad was like, hey, we're all teachers, and I'm like, no, we're not. And but I like that, because then I just ignored it. Like it literally wasn't like bleeding into my brain at all. But I don't know, I kind of like that.
Well, see, I don't like, because I fall for, because advertising is just such a fascinating and intelligent design. I mean, it really, there's people that marketers and everything and advertisers, they get this degree where you're actually really learning about the human psyche. You're really learning about the psychology of people and sociology, and what people desire, what they want to present as versus what they actually want, all of these things. And I think I don't know, let's say you're at a hotel and you're just scrolling on like the regular cable TV, and then it has like an advertisement for like, fucking OxyClean. You're like, okay, whatever, But then now all of my ads, like on Instagram, I'm telling you, I'm addicted to my phone. That's my confession. But I will have, it's like how, everyone is, but these ads really keep me there, and they hold me there, and they prey upon my insecurities so much.
Damn.
The amount of things that get advertised to me that is like anti-aging, like skincare, it's all skincare, or it's like shapers, like weird, like getting cellulite sucked up, like anti-cellulite, like it's all to like alter my face or my body.
Wow.
It's all like that.
I get a lot of ADHD and therapy ads, which makes sense, but I'm like, I thought that was just like in the zeitgeist for everyone, and then I found, like, I was asking my boyfriend, and he does not get those. He gets like sneakers and like crypto, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, interesting.
My ads are literally just like preying upon my fears of like, you better do this to your face or
damn.
It's crazy, dude.
That is dangerous.
I used to be able to really like just kind of be like, whatever, like, yeah, here's a fucking advertisement for a laundry detergent or a lawnmower, whatever. And now it's like every ad is like, hey, like, even, oh my God, every product is catered to me. It's like, shows me the like shoes I like, shows me fucking like advertises dermatology care, like clothing I like, all of the, I mean.
But do you like it? So that's the real question. Like, is there a part of you that's like, I don't like that, I like that? Or are you like, oh, thank you for, okay.
Some of it I don't like that I like. Some of it I found that it's more negative than positive. I will say there's things that I'm like, oh, that's a cute top, and then I buy it. I'm like, hell yeah, that was great. Thanks, Instagram. And then there's other things that I'm like, why is my brain occupied by these thoughts and really these fears? Because I think advertising works really in in not convincing somebody to buy something. It's not being like, hey, like, get this and you can acquire this. It's like, you better get this or this will happen. It's always that. I feel like that's always the looming kind of like, you don't want this to happen.
It's like, oh, you need this. Without it, you're not full. Yeah. Damn. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm a little naive when it comes to the algorithm, because I love to, like, I've heard that from, like, my boyfriend will, like, look at finance stuff, and then it's, like, all this toxic shit. And I'm like, what is this? But it's so hard I wonder if in the future there's going to be, like, another, I don't know if it's an app or a service, but you can apply a type of, like, a positive algorithm from, like like maybe because it develops to you, right? But maybe you're like, oh, I want to have that point of view, and then you can apply it. I don't know. That could be interesting because have you ever swiped with someone? Like, that's something I feel like people don't do, but every once in a while I'll get curious and I want to like show someone my feed because I'm like, I want to see the difference. And then you can't let them do it because then it will tune to their likes. You have to like swipe with them watching, and then I feel like it's a way for people to see how you view the world, which I think would be cool if we could actually share what you're liking. But I don't know how to do that.
I feel like though, because I will say this, you're like your question of like, do you like what they show you or you hate that you like it? It's like yes to all of it. I mean, like I'm like, yeah, like that's cool. Like I wouldn't have known about this skincare tool, whatever. But then I'm like, wait, why do I need to know about this skincare tool? Why am I so fixated on this thing or so scared of this thing happening? Like that's like, and so a lot of it is like, I think about this quite a bit. Sometimes I don't know if I'm conditioned, aka brainwashed into thinking a certain way, or I actually am in my own volition want this thing. So for example, I'm a pretty feminine woman, I would say, even though my voice is deep. But I don't know, sometimes I talk like a dude, whatever. But in terms of the way I present, like I love wearing dresses, I wear skirts, I dress very femininely. And and I love it. Like I like wearing makeup, I like having my nails done, I like wearing heels. And I'm constantly in this like, do I actually like it or was I conditioned to like it? Like do I have Stockholm syndrome when it comes to my likes? Am I just in love with my captor? Am I just in love with like, like am I
actually... We're all a little bit, right? Like life is kind of a prison if you think about it, and we all want to be alive. But that's interesting you asked that, because you asked that almost in a way where you're removing your agency now, because I've thought that sometimes too, but then it's like, then ask yourself, what do you like now? I think it's like, yes, there is a pattern of what you have liked, but I mean, I chopped off all my hair last year, and I don't know that I definitely like it, like honestly, but I was like, I want to try it because I had like blonde long hair and I like that, and then now sometimes I miss that, but it gives me the freedom to present differently, and before I was presenting in a way I like to, but it also wouldn't allow me flexibility. So sometimes I think we get stuck in like what we did before, and well, like, what do you want now? And then maybe you liked it because of your captor, and then you discovered, but now you like heels. And even if your captor, quote unquote, was like, fuck heels, you'd be like, well, fuck you. So I think there's a degree of like change allowable, but also a degree of like ownership, like taking it back of what you do like.
I do feel like, now that you asked that, I do feel like I actually do really like these things, and what I like about them is because I can, I think, mentally and emotionally maybe present very masculine. I think I really want to counter that by presenting very physically as feminine, because it makes me feel like I have more leeway to be like, hey, fucking this fucking guy, like, I feel more comfortable being, that's really my true self, is like a fucking talking like I'm a mechanic in Jersey. That's really me. But I want to feel like, not just safe, that's a weird word, but I want to be able
I mean, that is the word. I feel like like,
yeah,
hey, that's the therapy word.
Yeah, I want to be able to express that side of me that's like, kind of like funny and masculine, but then I also like, but I am a woman and would like to be considered like an attractive lady. It's a weird, I mean, we want it all.
No, it's not weird. We're in a world that is like still very much, these beauty standards are dictated by straight men, and even within, like, now I see like younger women coming out like in the lesbian community, and there's more. It's so weird to say this, 'cause I don't know if this is the right term, but it feels like there's like toxic masculinity starting in the young lesbian community, where there's policing of, and also like policing of what, like, hotness, and the whole idea of like queerness to me is about liking who you like and it not having to agree with everyone. But now there's like, oh, if you don't like this type of lesbian, or you have to look like this to be lesbian, and you're like, what? Like, this is literally just like the straightness, but like in lesbian form. And yeah, I don't know. I'm like, literally, I'm not on my ADHD meds, and I started that sentence and forgot why I did. Oh, because you're talking about making space. So I think it's not you don't have to feel bad for yourself that you sometimes care what people think. Because, I mean, first of all, we're comedians. But second of all, the world tells you to do that. So I think you taking ownership and knowing is like a first step to be like, well, what do I like? And how do I control it?
Yeah.
But I will say this very interesting that kind of ties into, I don't know if there's a real connection, but to me, I see a connection between you saying like, you want to be like able to act more like masculine, so you dress hyper femme. That feels like relatively close to the relation between like you like highbrow, like dense literature and films, and then also wanting to like enjoy just like junky reality TV. Like,
Wow,
do you
that's
feel like there's a similarity there?
I didn't even think about that. I never made a connection between those things, but I guess so. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, there's a wide spectrum. I hope everyone is on a very wide spectrum of likes and dislikes,
Mm-hmm.
and, presentation and whatnot. And there's not just like a binary. It's not just like this and this. It's like all of it and everything in between. I never made that connection, but yeah, maybe. I think it's like, I think really what it is at heart is that I'm kind of like a redneck, but I want to be.
Okay, wait, in what way?
I like trashy. I like some trashy shit, and
Okay.
I like to talk. I love like talking about nasty shit with my friends and like drinking beer.
Uh-huh.
You know, like just the subject matter that I talk about with my friends behind closed doors is like truly vile. We're disgusting people, and yet I want to be like wear a pearl necklace at a like socialite ball. Like
Yeah.
I truly have both of those things in me. Like I really enjoy oysters and like
I love
champagne.
oysters. I don't
Yeah,
think that's weird at all. Like, literally, you're just describing being a three-dimensional human. But I do think it's, in terms of, it makes sense that advertising would be your foe because advertising squashes the 3D, makes it 2D, and goes, because they'll go like, our customer enjoys boats, and then that's it, right? And they're like, this customer enjoys camping outdoors. But just, sometimes those are the same customer. But in
yes,
their mind, they're like, two separate people. This person enjoys outdoors, this person stays at home. And you're like,
that's so true. I think that there's a flattening, there's a two-dimensionality that is like put upon people because of algorithms, and I think that I just like I think that's why maybe that's why I have such strong feelings about it, because I feel like, I'm like, I'm not seen, and it's like the first thing you want to be seen by is other people, and then it's like, well, fucking this goddamn like brilliant computer can't even do it, doesn't even have the capacity to see all of this. How the fuck can a human being do it then, who is like limited with only their perspective? How can like this like incredible device that we have designed that has just so many, because that can draw so many connections, because that's the thing, they just make shortcuts where it's like, you like boats and therefore like A B C D, it's like a linear thought process of like, if you like this then you must like this. But it's like, that's why like people have a very difficult time. I tell people like, don't really ever buy me, like, if you're gonna get me like a gift, like just don't get me clothes or like shoes. I have such specific taste, because they're like, oh, dresses, like she wears vintage clothes, like she'll probably like this, and I'm like, not at all. Like, because it's like,
it's so specific, right?
so specific, but it's like, just because I like this doesn't mean that I like that. That's like, it's such a really like, it's weird, like even when it comes to just all of my interests and like things I like to do, it's like I'm like a risk taker, I would say, but only in terms of like psychically, if that makes sense. Like
Psychically?
I just like doing mushrooms. I like doing acid.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'll do any drug, to be honest with you. I'll go on like a crazy adventure. I'll go to like a rave and take ecstasy from a stranger. Like, I'm crazy. I'll do that shit. If you were like, oh, do you like skydiving? I'm like, absolutely not. I would never do that in my life.
So your mind's more risky than your body.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's fun though, because when you're talking about gifts, I'm like, I feel like I'm the same way, but then I really like when someone gives me something that's really them, and then 'cause to me, then I feel like I'm like, if someone gives me like like my dad he gave me like a shirt because he works at the patent office, like that's like just kind of ugly, it just says U.S. Patent Office, but then I'm like, oh, I can like cut this up and make this cool, but to me, I'm like wearing a thing that represents my dad, but if he was like, let me get you a blazer that I think you like, it would not be right. You know what I mean? Because it's like, now I don't have you or me in it. But that's really interesting. I want to end with one question that I feel will tie this up. If like you're also a public person online putting content out, so people can, the window goes both ways. So what do you think your audience tastes are? Like, you know what I mean? Like somebody who watches you or comes to your comedy on their For You page, are in your mind, are they liking the same things you like? Or like what in your mind is the, like, if you were to like put it into like a bullet point, like, okay, my audience, kind of, yeah, I'm curious, like, or is it all over the place? Like, what do you think the person who's scrolling and sees you, how that algorithm got them there?
Well, apparently they like yappy broads. That's definitely that's the only universality between them, is that they like a yappy broad. I'll say this, like, the nice thing about doing stand-up is that you kind of have a live understanding of the people that like your stuff. Like,
Yeah.
especially over like years of doing it, people that come up to you after shows, people that you see laugh at your jokes, people that follow you on social media, like you actually do have a face kind of to, and a demographic to people that actually like your stuff. When I first started doing comedy, I was really surprised that a lot of like bros are into me, like are into my comedy. They're like, "You're so funny, dude!" Like, oh, and they'll always say this. It's like I've had this said to me so many times after a show. They'll be like, "Dude, I loved your joke about like that, like whatever, that kind of like loser dude. Like my friend Tyler's exactly like that."
Ah,
That's you, bro. Like I'm making
that's so
fun of
funny.
you. Like they don't think, they're like, oh, like when you make fun of those dumb guys. I'm like, yeah, I'm making fun of you, dude. Like
It gives them an excuse to feel like they're part of the girls because you're part of the guys. Like you create that space for them.
yeah, but I think, I mean, I cater a lot. I mean, I don't think about who I cater my comedy to. I just find something funny, and then I don't really think about the result as to like, I don't think about really the consumer too much. I mean,
Yeah, but I'm just curious, like if like let's not that you're doing it strategically, but like if someone was surfing, like you are.
I mean, I do a lot of comedy that is, because I feel like I cater a lot. My voice caters a lot to women, to kind of like, hey, like I'm gonna say the things that we wish we could say, but we also like as a straight woman, it sucks because you kind of are like, oh, I am attracted to men, but also like I fucking hate them sometimes, and they don't understand me, and they're so annoying. And I think so many women are like, yes, but I can't even fucking say that because then they'll take it personally, and like there's a platform for like women to kind of like complain about men, but also be like, but we love you, like I embrace you, like I don't hate men in any way, shape, or form. I fucking love men. I have so many of my friends are men. They're fucking I love men.
Canceled. No.
Yeah, I can't men. No, I really do, but it's like, can we love something and also talk about the things that irritate us with it, and it's like, and not have them be like, whoa, I'm so offended. It's like, I'm just exploring that space, and I think a lot of women can identify with that, and that makes me happy. I love making like young women laugh, and also like I'm super happy to be a sacrificial lamb with my sex life. I'm very much like, oh, like I will just talk on stage about some horrible sexual experiences that I've had, and just how much I'm a slut and all of these things. And that's like, so many women, like we still very much are antiquated in like a slut shaming kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. And it's like, so many women, they're all on the same page. Women fuck, okay? And they probably fuck more than guys, but they won't say it because it's a different connotation. It's like, if a guy fucks a bunch of chicks, like he's a player. If a girl fucks a bunch of dudes, she's a fucking like loose slut. And it's like, no, let's like take that back. So I don't know. I guess my demographic, because it's interesting. It's like those bros that I'm like, that to me, if you showed me a picture of them, I'd be like, oh, in high school, that was my worst nightmare. Like
that's
those
so
are the
funny.
guys that make
in some ways it's like bros and maybe the women who like bros, because it, in a way, like, or did at some point, because hearing you say like, oh, you kind of give a voice to these women who didn't have a place to say it, but more than just the voice and them hearing it, they also see the reaction. Like you're not getting guys being like, fuck, I'm offended. Like they like it, and yeah, maybe they're not getting the whole picture, but then when the other women see that, I think it's creating safety for them to be like, oh, I can feel this way, and guys know that, and they'll still accept me because they see you being accepted.
it's like women, look, we're all aware. Women, we're also shitty. Oh my God. Do you know how annoying I am? I'm such a brat. Like, I complain about stuff, like, to my boyfriend. I can be so bratty and it's just such a petulant, like, child. Like, and like, we, like, we're women are little sensitive beings and we, like, can complain a lot. I fucking feel that way, and it's like, let's talk about it, but it's like,
Yeah.
I think in terms of like my whatever, the people that are like my shit, scrolling on my feed and whatnot, would they like the same things as me? I think maybe, especially like, I mean, I don't know. My comedy's pretty wide ranging. Like, I definitely have like this whole bit about being an ex skater dater, and I think a lot of like women can identify with that, but also dudes are like, oh, that's so funny. Like, yeah, like that's a thing.
Yeah, because there's always the guys that weren't skaters and hated the skaters. I think your audience would, because they like you, if they didn't start from the like books and stuff you read, they would then be interested in it through your point of view. And I think that's the cool part about doing comedy is you start from like maybe what you feel like is just a universal dating experience, but then your point of view comes through, and then they might go, oh, I want to hear Nina talk about like Let's Congé or whatever, and then they're like, oh, maybe I should read that book, but then they see it through your eyes, which I think is really cool.
Now I'm like,
well, maybe not. Maybe like like an Oprah. Maybe like a a tastemaker.
That's my nickname. I go Alex Jones on their ass via TikTok.
Hopefully for better progress. But yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I feel like this was a fun talk, and it really like came back around. Hopefully you're not embarrassed or ashamed. I think there's nothing wrong with liking Love Is Blind. I enjoy it as well. Or tell people where they can follow you. I know you have a podcast if you want to plug it or whatever, things like that.
Yeah, please listen to Girls on Guys. We're on all the platforms for it, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. You can follow our socials. We release an episode every Tuesday. And yeah, I'm at Pizza Party 69 on Instagram and Nina Tarr on TikTok. And
sweet. I think I'll be on an episode of that pod that has not come out yet, right?
Yeah, we're releasing.
Oh, cool. So y'all, but just check it out. It's super fun. Had a great time. You can follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod on Instagram, and follow me at Teresa Lee Bot on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to You Can Tell Me Anything. You Can Tell Me Anything is a comedic podcast created and produced by Teresa Lee on the Hoo Ha Ha Podcast Network. The Hoo Ha Ha team is Ashley McAtee, Audrey Povar, Maggie Reed-Austin, Cardi Assad, and Stephanie Binot. The theme song for this podcast was created by Cody Johnston. The outro music was written by Shipwrecked Sailor. And the Hoo Ha Ha app can be found in the Apple Store to stream your favorite comedy series and laugh out loud podcasts by the funniest women in comedy. To contact this podcast specifically, you can email tellmeanythingpod@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at tellmeanythingpod. Thank you.